Yu Narukami is maybe the most successful protagonist in the Persona franchise. But did he deserve it? Persona 4 sold over 4 million copies worldwide and won Best RPG of 2008. Back in 2008, this was a number Atlus had never witnessed, let alone planned for. Then Persona 3 happened. Persona 3 sold a million copies, $18 million in turnover. And the hungry Western audience did not know it was waiting for the game until it arrived. And what Atlus did next with that momentum, the decision they made in that window, is exactly what makes the Yu Narukami situation so strange. We will get there. The whole story begins exactly 1 year later. The world had just moved on from the death of the previous main character. A new April, a new town, and a new protagonist. It was a story about a boy with many names. Soji Seta, Yu Narukami, and of course the famously P4MC, because Persona protagonists are cognitive reflections of whoever is holding the controller. The names are user dependent, and that detail is going to matter more than you think by the end of this. The community calls him a Chad, zero fucks given in any situation, and honestly, fair. But here's the thing about that reputation, it did not come from the game itself. And when you find out where it actually came from, the whole image starts to fade. I mean, crack. Or what? But first, I want you to visualize something. No, wait. Like, seriously, I want you to visualize this. Before I tell you the thesis, just visualize this for a second. Kanji, his shadow forced him to stand in his own shame about masculinity and desire in front of everybody, including himself. Risa, her shadow said there was no real Risa underneath the idol. That the performance was there, but underneath there was nothing. Naoto, her shadow forced her to grieve an entire identity she would spend her whole life building as armor. And most famously, Yu Narukami's best friend, Yosuke. His shadow told him he resented the town, resented the dead girl, and said that his friendship with Yu was the only thing keeping him from complete emptiness. Every single one of these characters confronted their truth, the ugly, buried thing they did not want to be true about themselves. That confrontation is Persona 4. That's the whole game. Yeah, that's basically the whole game in a nutshell. But here comes a catch. The main protagonist himself does not do this action. And when you go looking for it, finish the game, do the post game, dig through the lore, you won't find any extracurricular reason behind this. And when people pushed Atlus on this directly, their explanation was so strange, so weirdly defensive as well, that it raises a bigger question than this. I'll show you that explanation in a bit, and you can decide for yourself what it means. Because the whole irony is that Persona 4 is a game about confronting your own truth, and its main character, the one the entire game is revolving around or built around, is the only person in the game who never has to confront his truth. How does that happen? Like, why did Atlus let that happen? Now, the question is not whether Yu Narukami is a good protagonist. The question is whether Persona 4 ever actually met him. The shadow mechanic in Persona 4 is a psychological thesis. Now, we won't get too deep in Carl Jung's idea of the shadow in psychology, but Atlus commits to it completely, especially in Persona 4. Every dungeon, every breakdown scene, every boss fight, all of it exists to deliver one single message. The truth about who you are will destroy you if you keep running from it. The only way through is acceptance. That's the core of Persona 4. The game conveys this message out loud through multiple characters. It is the spine of the entire Persona 4 experience. Golden experience. That's why I need you to understand this rule before we go any further. Persona 4 builds the entire architecture of its world around this psychological concept. For example, the Midnight Channel really just exists because our hidden, repressed thoughts desperately need somewhere to go. The TV world itself is literally a physical space constructed out of pure human denial. Even the thick fog covering the town The very thing that is actively killing people is just a manifestation of avoidance in Persona 4. It's the literal fog of refusing to see things clearly. I explained the idea of the killer in Persona 4 in this video. I'll probably link it. I'll put it on the description or at the end of the video, so watch till the end. See, this game is not subtle about what it's trying to communicate. The only clear reference we get once was direct classroom lectures about these psychological archetypes, including the persona, shadow, and collective unconscious, taught by Yu Narukami's teacher, or the teacher in Yasogami High, Mr. Edogawa. But first, you need to feel the weight of what the game is actually trying to promise to its audience. Because when Atlus puts a shadow in front of Kanji, it means that he needs to confront himself to find out his true self. Every single one of the main characters, Kanji, Risa, Naoto, Yosuke, has problems that are very specific and actually really real as well. Like, they are also relatable. However, if you have noticed till now, there's a common pattern in all these confrontations. So let me show you what that pattern is. There's a reason every single shadow scene in this game is deeply rooted with the main characters. And it's not just about good writing. It's because in every single case, the shadow does not say something vague. It says the most specific thing. For example, I like men. I don't. For example, I quote, I like men, I unquote. Or shit sorta like that. Basically the inner thoughts these characters have, which exactly is what they are running from, apparently. And Kanji's shadow did not say you are confused about yourself. Instead, you're scared that nobody will ever accept you for what you actually are. And it said it in front of everyone. Risa's shadow did not say you struggle with identity. It said there is no you underneath the performance. You are nothing without the mask. That personal side Persona 4 takes is the key you need to understand. That's what makes the confrontation so real. You cannot run from yourself. You can only run from something that has your name on it. And you either, if you have the balls to accept it and move on, or you don't. Therefore, when finally Yu's turn arrives, you naturally expect the game to point that exact same terrifying mechanism at its own main character. Like, not terrifying, but you'd expect him to face the brutal mirror, right? It doesn't happen. Nope. Nowhere. Like, this guy escaped the plot. This guy escaped the plot. So now that we directly know Yu Narukami does not confront his shadow like the others do, you have to ask, didn't Atlus at least give us some hints? Otherwise, it would be totally unjustified for them to completely ruin their own main character like that. But let's look closer at what Yu Narukami's character arc actually looked like in the game. In Persona 4 Golden, Yu's confrontation with his shadow does not happen the same way that the other characters do. There is no dedicated dungeon for Yu, and you never get a boss fight against a shadow version of himself. Instead, what happens is fragmented. It is fragmented across two major moments in the entire story. Near the end of the game, Yu enters a space called the Hollow Forest. This is the closest thing to a personal shadow dungeon Yu ever gets. However, the whole place is framed around saving Nanako and Risa, not around Yu confronting himself. Yu is just there to save someone else once again. And that's why his own inner conflict is still not the point of the sequence. And another key moment we witness is the Izanami confrontation. The true final boss of the game is Izanami. When Yu defeats her, his persona evolves into Izanagi no Okami. The game frames this evolution entirely around his deep bonds with his friends. Therefore, his version of acceptance is just a power-up from his relationships. Every social link he maxed out contributes to the final attack, making it a reward for his friendships, rather than a confrontation with a repressed truth. This is why other media tried to fill that gap, simply because the base game is so thin on his actual identity. The Persona 4 manga gives you a brief moment of real self-doubt. where he questions whether he's actually connecting with people or just acting out what connection is supposed to look like. See, because Yu's parents move constantly for work, he has spent his entire life changing schools. To survive this socially, he developed a coping mechanism. That's kind of sad. He becomes exactly who the other person needs him to be. That's dangerous. For example, when he hangs out with Yosuke, he acts like the supportive bro. Instead, when he's with Yukiko, he shifts into polite gentleman. The manga questions if these are genuine connections or if he is just matching their frequencies to avoid conflict. His shadow is not a monster he fights. Instead, it's the terrifying realization that the wild card is completely empty. If you can wear every mask, who are you then when you take the mask off? Basically, if you can wear every mask, who are you then when you take off the mask? You're not Joker, lil bro. Yu fears that if he stops catering to what his friends want, they will realize there's nothing of substance inside him and they will just leave. But the anime handles this a bit differently though. Because in the show, Yu actually confronts his true self, or his own shadow in a somewhat way. The game and the manga tell us that Yu does not really have a profound real self. But this is completely opposite in the anime. Most of the time, the show covers up his lack of an inner life by making him funny and highly capable. However, there is still a deep hidden anxiety remaining within Yu Narukami. That's how the anime identifies Yu's repressed shadow as the absolute terror of returning to isolation, which we witness in episodes 25 and 26. He went from a lonely city kid to a local hero, surrounded by a found family who loves him. But there is a ticking clock. He must go back to Tokyo in a year.